Let's start with Steel Gamble. He dropped a $5 super chat earlier. He says, forget all the comments about Garrett Riley for a moment. Chris Rump is who needs to go. D-line play has been atrocious since he arrived here. I mean, I don't think that – I think that obviously you did not get, anything really from your defensive ends today.
Nope.
I'm not one to and I said this before, like I'm not one to make judgments about position coaches, halfway into a season in their first year, and especially at a position that we knew was a huge question mark heading into the year. I mean, this performance certainly to a degree falls on his shoulders, but he's not the only defensive line coach. Nick Eason's position group did not play well tonight either. So like I'm not there yet. Yeah, Chris Rumpf is a guy that has done it at a high level at multiple spots in the NFL. Like I'm not. He definitely deserves criticism tonight, but as far as talking about making a change there, like you said, forget talking about Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley's been here a season plus. Like I feel like his unit's performance tonight was also extremely unacceptable, and he has less excuses for why they played the way they did. I don't know, but thank you for the $5.
I appreciate the $5, and I hear what he's saying, and I think Chris Rump definitely deserves some blame on what happened tonight. But I mean, my focus is the two coordinators tonight. They shoulder the bulk of this blame.
And the head coach.
There's three people, right? Yeah, absolutely. Three people. The head coach and the offensive and defensive coordinator, because the team wasn't ready to play tonight. And those are the three people whose responsibility it is at the end of the day to get these players ready to play. And they weren't ready to play, and there were no adjustments made throughout the game. And the reason that I'm staring right at Garrett Riley and right at Wes Goodwin tonight is because where were the adjustments tonight? Where were they at? We did the same thing from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, and somehow pretending like that was going to work. Completely unacceptable.
And to a degree, like it just, adjustments aside, like guys are not your guys are not winning their one-on-ones. Like you're just right. You weren't winning up. You weren't, like, sometimes football is just down to that. Like you can make all the adjustments you want, but if your guys are still getting beat up, getting beat in their one-on-ones, it doesn't matter what adjustments you make. So like, but that also falls on them. So like, I'm just like, it wasn't even just all about, and I'll definitely have to go back and watch the game.
No, it wasn't all coaching. Look, there was a complete lack of execution tonight. The body language of a lot of the players tonight, I mean, frankly, just looked disinterested at points and times in the game. Like, They look like, well, I guess we ain't gonna win this one. All right. Well, hopefully that clock hurry up and expire so we can get out of here. Like, that's what it looked like on the sideline a lot tonight. And
absolutely,
again, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable from the players. It's unacceptable from the coaches. But when you're the head guy, when you're Dabo Swinney, when you're Garrett Riley, when you're Wes Goodwin, you take the brunt of these blames when it happens. Because that wasn't a team out there tonight that was remotely prepared coming into the game. And that's also the problem. They didn't look prepared for what Louisville did tonight at any point in time. So,
and they didn't. It just like I understand, like, teams break tendency, especially. I mean, Louisville was coming in; they're playing Clemson. That's just kind of the reality. Teams will, they spend extra time. They do things differently as far as prep. But you, as a staff, have to be prepared for that. And they just it especially like once you settled in and once you scored that first touchdown, that should have been the point where you were like, okay, we need, the team, we needed some time to settle in and feel our way and how Louisville was playing us. And but it never happened. And whether it was the lack of adjustments and the players just flat out not doing their jobs, like that's how you get the result that you got tonight. So, especially when both of those things happen with such regularity, it was awful. Kuzi, what's up, my man? He drops a $5 super chat. He says, still don't understand why the offense was playing so nonchalant, like we weren't down 3 possessions at the beginning of the fourth. Yeah, I just another example, just another aspect of that game that was just as poor as you could possibly draw it up. I don't know what, especially when you were having success with tempo, like why the offense slowed to a crawl. It just felt like I get that you want to get the right play call in and you want to make sure that, because that you need to score on that drive. But at a certain point, you're running out of time, man.
It looked like
it's not going to matter whether or not you score. They're fine with letting you score if it takes you 11, 12, 13 plays to do it. And you're chewing up 6-7 minutes of clock. Like Louisville was perfectly fine being up 3 possessions to do that, because you significantly decrease your win probability, by doing that. Even if you actually punch it in, which you didn't. It's especially on that first drive, especially on that drive in the fourth quarter. Was that the second block kick when you were down 26-7? Was that in the fourth or late third? I can't remember.
I think that was late third, heading into the fourth. And then you start the fourth and go on that drive. And even though you punched that in, that took you 6 minutes. And you're huddling up when the clock is running in the fourth quarter, down 3 scores. It just at certain points, it looked like we didn't even want to win the game. Not that Clemson really had a chance, because I don't think they were moving the ball particularly well, even, at the end when they did put up a couple, touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Just nothing looked easy tonight.
Nope.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm completely frustrated with this game and this team right now, and this. I don't know.
Yeah, you get the momentum of, it's like, oh man, the offense is back in Clemson, and you're scoring points again, and we had talked about the deficiencies of this defense throughout the season. So this wasn't a totally surprising performance. And I was funny. I predicted Louisville to score 28 points. Yeah. So I felt like Louisville was going to score in this game.
Yeah, I think I predicted them to score 24.
But I did not project.
It never crossed my mind that Clemson would struggle to score in this game.
Yeah,
that's the one surprising thing. It's not surprising necessarily the success that their offense had against Clemson, because
but that's what I'm saying, is that even though I predicted 28 points, I'm still surprised, because I think the way it looked, I did not expect you to get flat out bullied.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect you to.
That was not on the table. I was like, okay, I think Louisville. I think Tyler Shuck is going to have some success. Those receivers are really good. They're going to create, they'll create a mismatch or a one-on-one and get the ball down the field. Especially since I knew it's like, okay, well, our pass rush has not been fantastic this year. I was like, okay, they'll have opportunities to take some shots and maybe and they'll get some big plays and I think but I did not expect you to get flat out bullied in the run game and then just get quick game to death up and down the field basically the entire game. That was not the game script I had in mind. I thought it was okay, you'll give up some explosives.
Yeah, I didn't think
from a down basis you would win the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I didn't think you get manhandled along the line of scrimmage. That's probably the biggest surprise of the game. But Louisville scoring points, not surprising. To your point, how they did it, yeah, maybe a little bit. But our offense not being able to do anything, That's surprising. I didn't see that coming. I thought our offense was going to put up, mid-30s, 40s in points tonight, and we couldn't move the ball. We didn't have an answer.
Nope.
Suddenly,
Until Louisville was perfectly fine, just sitting in base defense and, letting us just work our way down the field.
Yeah, but that was more Louisville's defense changing, not our
Right.
offense suddenly having success.
That's what I'm saying.
We were having the success that they were allowing us to have, which is even more embarrassing when you think about it. I mean,
and even then it was a struggle. Like
even then it didn't look easy. Like they were giving it to you, and it didn't even look easy. But
you had the one fourth down that you might not have actually got, but they called it first down on the field, and they couldn't overturn it. Like,
they gave you a gift there. That probably wasn't a first down.
Yeah, every single yard was like pulling teeth, and again, that's how it felt last year. That's how it's felt in here the past 3-4 seasons now. You reverted back to everything that was wrong and bad about last season, minus the turnovers.
Yeah, minus the turnovers. But you had to go for it 6 times on fourth down. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
I think we ran 100. I believe I had it up. We ran 101 plays for 450 yards.
Nothing to show for it. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, I would hope if any team runs 100 yards in a game and doesn't get to 400 yards of offense, like that's a problem. So like, even though like the raw stat line of 450 yards will be like, oh, that looks pretty good. One, a lot of it was when Louisville was up 3 possessions, and 2, we had to run a million plays to actually get to that point because
a lot of it was.
I mean, that's why the yards per play exists. That's why we care about that stat. And 4.5 or whatever it is not good. It's not good at all.
No.
All right, we got a couple more super chats. Hip Elf, thank you for the $5. He says, "Don't understand how we have more talent on paper than 2016 and 2018, and this happens. Give me 3-star Austin and Farrell back." I mean, well, Cleveland Farrell was not a 3-star, but like I agree to an extent. I think at this point it's time to throw that the on paper talent, and we've talked about it on the show. Do your eyes tell you that this is a team on par or as talented as 2016 or 2018?
No.
I mean, you've got players that would you've got players here and there that would certainly be good on those teams.
Yes, you have your guys, but as a whole, no.
Especially when you get into the depth and the like. No, I do like a lot of the young players on this team. So it's like I don't even think like the fact that this team isn't like 2016 or 2018 Clemson, like that's not the expectation I had coming into the season. But you certainly have more than enough talent that this is a result that shouldn't be, expected or even likely.
Well, and here's one of the things, I've heard people bring up the transfer portal because it's always that easy hot button topic, and I'm not bringing it up for the reasons that a lot of people like to bring it up with Clemson, but I will bring it up for one reason specifically with what we're talking about is the addition of the transfer portal in college football has made it very difficult to maintain quality depth that's ready to play for majority of teams, right? Yep. Because a team like Clemson, we don't lose starters via the transfer portal, right? We've lost maybe a couple. We've talked about those, right? But we do lose a lot of depth pieces when it comes to the transfer portal. And then Clemson typically replaces those with high school players. So you're just getting younger and younger, and your depth is getting younger and younger. And then it's really hard when you see this defense, and we've talked about it a lot this season already, right? When that second, third string defense starts coming in, you're like, wow, that's a pretty big drop off. That's a steep drop off from that first team defense, right? And these are the reasons why. And that's why I think, to your point, talking about that 2016, 2018, the depth there was crazy. Like, you didn't have guys moving around in college football like they are now. You didn't have your depth pieces just walking away every single season. And then you're starting over the very next year trying to create depth with a whole new group of guys, right? It has an effect on a team. It has an effect when you start getting injuries later in the season. It has an effect when you have to rely on more guys to get through, as the season gets longer, as the competition gets steeper and you got to roll more guys in and out. That's a thing that I think is a consequence of the transfer portal, not just plucking, the best players out of it. And, we've talked about that with Clemson, but I think that's an interesting thing to think about as well.
Yeah, and I do want to preface, I don't think Clemson lost this game because the transfer portal, because it's
no.
The depth. This is just kind of an overarching theme of the season, but the depth is, the lack of depth wasn't why you lost tonight, because your starters were getting whooped. You flat out sucked.
Your first team regardless is why you lost.
Yeah. So, again, that's always a conversation that comes up when Clemson doesn't play well. It's like, transfer portal. But it's like, we can talk about, Clemson and, what they are and aren't doing enough of in terms of that realm of talent acquisition. But at the end of the day, is like you're not playing. Like we're not talking about how you match up when you go and play Georgia. I mean, you're getting dominated and bullied on the line of scrimmage by Louisville. It's not good. It's not good. You out recruit them.
That means you're not even ready
every year. You're
not even ready to even have a conversation about those other teams.
Right.
Believe me, they are far better on the offense or on the lines of scrimmage. No offense to Louisville, but they're far better.
And I said they have a good defensive line. Like I said that in the preview, I was like, I felt like their defensive line was really good. The secondary had been a consistent issue for them. They did not communicate well. I think the broadcast talked about how they looked like they simplified things, and I'm sure that definitely helped. But man, it's like I felt good about your ability to get your receivers to get open, and that's one thing we didn't really talk about. Your receivers flat out got punked in the past game too. You weren't getting open, and when you did get open, you had a lot of drops. I mean that when you were what was the score? Was that when you were down 17-7?
Yeah.
And you were down 17-7 and driving down the field. Cade throws a perfect ball down the sideline to TJ Moore. Goes through his hands on third. It was like 3rd and 9. You end up, and that was you end up having that kick blocked. Like that was the point. Maybe that was 23-7. I don't remember what score it was at this point. It all blurred together because every quarter in this game was basically the same thing.
Pretty much.
But that was just an example. Tight ends didn't have. Jake Brenningstool was a non-factor. There was drops, whiffing on blocks. Just probably his worst game of the season. He didn't give you anything tonight. And I don't want to make this about calling out individual players, but I'm just saying the unit as a whole, the wide receiver unit as a whole, just flat out sucked, today, and that was disappointing with how well they've played, since that Georgia game. And now you're like, okay, well, it's back to square one. It feels like in a way. Especially, you thought when you got Bryant Wesco back, you thought that was going to be a shot in the arm. It's like, oh man, okay, and just it wasn't wasn't there. And again, I'll have to go, when I go back and rewatch it, how much of it was the play, the play call, like how much of it was Cade. Maybe guys were open. That's the one thing about the broadcast is like you never really get to see the safeties and what they're doing.
You can't really see them. So.
Yeah, and the routes downfield. But you didn't have a lot of success creating, those opportunities. And it's not like you can't do it. Like it's not like a defense plays too high safety and it's like, oh, well, guess there's we can't throw the ball downfield. Like, no, there are weaknesses in cover too. But we didn't do anything to exploit them. And that was the broadcast mentioned it. It's like, you were not working the middle of the field much at all, which was shocking because this team has done really well at working the middle of the field a lot of the season. You haven't seen a whole lot of, just 50, down the sideline 50-50 balls. You've seen guys running routes across the middle of the field, and Cade, the short, the intermediate and deep throws throwing to the middle of the field. None of that tonight. He really didn't attempt many. So I don't know how much of that is Garrett Riley's play call, how much of it was Cade Klubnik, how much of it was the receivers just not getting open. We'll have to see. It's probably all of it. And it's definitely all of it at different points, but how much of each, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a combination of all of it that is at the root of the explanation of it. But it's just, man, that was tough to watch. I'm not gonna lie, that was a tough game to watch.
Sure.
Not something that I anticipated coming into this game. Again, Louisville scoring some points, sure. Getting dominated up front, didn't see that coming. Offense getting dominated for 4 quarters, didn't see that coming. And it's crazy because you've seen this Clemson team, through 7-8 games of the season now, right? And you've seen us have to win a couple different types of ways. So you think that you have enough in your arsenal, you think you got enough in your bag that, okay, Louisville wants to come in at too high safety. Obviously, they don't want anything over the top. You would think Clemson would have more than enough answers for that. But it just didn't seem that way tonight. And, part of that's probably execution. Part of that's probably play calling, all the stuff that you mentioned before. But certainly frustrating to watch.
Yep. One more super chat from Hit Wonder 101. He's thank you for the $5. He says, even though our Tigers were trash tonight, the cut blocking was dirty, in my opinion, from Louisville. Nonetheless, the Tigers were unprepared and played lazy. I mean, that's the reality of football. That I can't. Yeah. It's certainly frustrating to play against, for sure. I mean, I didn't play defensive line, and I didn't play that long when I did. It's part of football. It's not illegal. As long they had a plan to neutralize Clemson's pass rush, and that they felt like that was the way to do it, and that was. They were successful. They were really successful, and you got to tip. I mean, there are ways to scheme around that and adjust for it, but you have to actually do it. Especially after you've seen it a couple of times. It's okay. Well, all right. This is how they're going to play us. Like, you have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
So like I don't.
There's techniques on the defensive line to combat an offensive line cutting every single play.
Yeah.
There's things you can do, and we didn't do it.
I mean, they basically throw themselves out of the play when they do so. But again, that's the thing. Guys just you didn't. It was a lack of adjustment on all fronts. It was, sometimes it's not just a coach making adjustments. Sometimes players have to make side adjustments when they through the natural course of the game. Like you do things. Okay, this guy's blocking me this way. All right. Well, I've been taught to do this. I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It just that was not a part of the game script tonight for whatever reason. So you didn't see a whole lot of guys like adjusting to what they were seeing from that aspect. So I don't know. But yeah, I certainly don't care for it. So like, I don't want to say you're wrong. Like, but it's part of the
No, I
game.
hate cut blocking.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it.
We've already lost. Peter Woods went out tonight. We've already lost him from a guy cut blocking in the App
Yeah,
State game.
we just lost him again to the same type of thing,
Yeah.
cut blocking. Also lost Trey Williams tonight
Yeah.
for the same reason, and then DeMonte Capehart for a little bit. His looked, man. Did you see his replay?
Yeah, that was rough.
I thought it was worse than
two guys.
obviously.
That was when two guys.
Yeah,
it was two of them at the
it
same
was
time.
like the one guy took him straight on, and then I think it was the center maybe that came over and cut him from the side as well, which
that's brutal, man.
That's a little questionable to me. Like I don't know about all that, but
when the rules expert guy explained it, he seemed to think it was legal. I don't know. They'll probably.
Well, if that's legal, it shouldn't be legal. You shouldn't be able to cut. You shouldn't be able to cut somebody on the side of the knee. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree, but
I don't care what the circumstance is, regardless of the player, or the team, or you shouldn't be able to cut somebody on the side of the knee, especially when you're talking about a dude the size of DeMonte Capehart. Like that's how you end somebody's career right there, man. That's just my opinion. Cutting from the front is a little different, right? But from the side, that's I'm not too far.
But thank you for the super chat, Hit Wonder. Appreciate it.